Welcome again to OpenAsset's best practices for using InDesign in document creation. George, the virtual stage is all yours.
Kevin, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm excited about today's session. Admittedly, a little nervous based on the turnout. We've had a really high response from the SFPS community for this content, so I'm really excited. As Kevin noted, I've been with OpenAsset for over 5 years. In that time, and hopefully what I can bring to the conversation today is the unique perspective of working closely with AEC firms that are interested in buying a DAM, namely OpenAsset, new clients that have purchased OpenAsset and are going through the onboarding or implementation process, transitioning from workflows that can be fairly messy. And then on the other side of that decision-making process, the value that our clients get from using OpenAsset. So today's session is going to be focused really on the value drivers of our clients that come with using InDesign alongside OpenAsset. I'll be talking through some of the tips and tricks for creating proposals and resumes when using InDesign and a digital asset management tool like OpenAsset. And I want to actually take a second to really look back. A month ago, we ran a webinar with Julie Schaefer. She is an AEC-focused InDesign expert she runs Schaefer Creative. And during that session, she raised the idea of macro pursuit goals and micro pursuit goals and how all of these culminate to inform your strategy and approach to winning new business. I'll say just quickly that after this webinar, some of the resources that we will provide to registrants and attendees are the resources that she shared, the top 5 InDesign techniques for your proposals. But I want to focus really on part of the conversation that she did not focus on. So during that session, she talked about the macro and micro pursuit goals and really went into the micro pursuit goals, how to leverage InDesign to reach certain creative goals, color palettes, alignments, maintaining font size ratios, guiding readers with implied movement within images, all of that. Today's session, I want to be talking about respecting your firm's brand and the ability to leverage OpenAsset to really provide the reviewer with differentiating content that's digestible, relevant, and memorable. So how can you use a DAM like OpenAsset alongside InDesign to reach those macro pursuit goals? From there, looking ahead, right, as I'm looking or showing the agenda, we'll be talking through some of the best practices of using OpenAsset. These key themes that I'm going to walk through, the best practices and tips and tricks, are really pulled right out of our conversations with our 900 plus clients. We strive to provide a really strong customer experience, both through our product and through our teams that interact with our clients. And we gain a lot of insight being AEC focused. We are vertically focused on the AEC space to make sure that we kind of really remain aligned with our core target users. We specifically focus on this sector, on your industry, to make sure that we can provide you with best practice guidance and really highlight certain ways to make all of your lives easier. Kevin mentioned the Q&A session or Q&A session at the end. And so please make sure that you're dropping questions into the Q&A box if you have them. And with that, I'm gonna start talking about OpenAsset, and then we'll go right into the best practices. So for a quick introduction, OpenAsset is a AEC-focused digital asset management system. We enable users to find and organize and share content based on a curated taxonomy that matches how you're already talking about content. So if internally you are talking about things based on the sector, the year completed, the geographic area, those are all pieces of data that you can capture and store in OpenAsset to make sure that you are sourcing that imagery, that content quickly, and turning that into resources, collateral that your team can go use to win new business. So we start with projects. allow you to curate that metadata. We also allow you to store employees, your team members, against the projects that they've worked on. So really enabling you to build and tell a robust story about all of the experience of your firm, not just the projects you've built, but the incredible people that make up your teams and bring experience from outside of your firm, growth from within your firm, and highlight the work that they've done. As we get into the best practices here, I'm going to be jumping in between my demo system, this deck, InDesign. So bear with me as we do that. I want to talk through these bullets here, but I want to do it in a way that I'm providing some kind of context and value and how it lines up with OpenAsset's. So when we begin talking through these next couple slides, and we're really highlighting some of these key themes, I think it's important to think about it from the context of how are our clients getting value in their document creation workflows by leveraging OpenAsset. One of the first and one of the most important ways to do that is to really leverage your system as a single source of truth for project and employee storytelling. Relevant content is really important when you are going back to those macro pursuit goals and you're talking about how do I tie pursuit efforts or tie our employee and project experience to your pursuits. You want to make sure that you're leveraging projects that are really relevant to the work you're submitting for. So as you look at OpenAsset and you're thinking about storing data, it's worth calling out that our most successful clients store robust project and employee information in OpenAsset. They leverage this single source of truth mindset for these objects, projects, and employees to launch thousands of documents out of OpenAsset a month. It reduces the time that they spend on creating project sheets, SF330s, employee resumes, and more, effectively giving them a leg up on the competition that's manually creating that content. So how do they do it? In OpenAsset, they leverage the taxonomy that they build for projects to how they're already talking about the work that you do. Location, city, country, services provided, sustainability awards, the sector, all of these things naturally align with how you're talking about pursuits, how you're trying to identify work that is relevant to the bid you're working on. And leveraging this information is a really important part of beginning to populate and pull together a relevant pursuit package for that project. So when we get into any of these projects, you can start to see that there's story data attached to the project. So I think it's really important that when we talk about InDesign documents and creating proposals and pursuits for the work you're doing, a lot of our clients historically stored kind of minimal information against the project. And in the last couple of years, we've really honed in on the idea of bringing this storytelling data into OpenAsset allows you to quickly pull this content out of OpenAsset and put it into an InDesign document. With just a few clicks of a button here, you can launch a sample project sheet that includes information about 1201 CROA that tells the story of your firm's work. This has been transformational for our clients. When they start putting this information into OpenAsset, they're able to quickly launch documents out of OpenAsset into an InDesign format that tells the story of the content or of the project. Similarly, for employees, we can do the same thing. We can start pulling bio and other story data about those employees and their experience into InDesign quickly from OpenAsset. In order to get there, you have to embrace this single source of truth mentality around storing information in OpenAsset that's relevant to your marketing pursuits. One pro tip that I can offer, and really it comes from lots of client conversations, but most recently from the archivist at BRK Ingalls Group, who is a client of ours. When you're thinking about this data and you're asking yourself, well, where do I start? How do I get there? Her response to that is always start with what you have. Look at the tools you have, identify the data that's relevant, and bring it into OpenAsset. they did that manually through imports. If you have Uninet CRM, if you have Deltek, great. We have a connector for that. We have tools that help you sync data, certain data points off of projects in those tools into OpenAsset. If you have AEC 360, Flow 10, CMAP, any of those that we also have partnerships with, ask them about syncing data into OpenAsset. If you don't have any of those tools in your tech stack today, that's okay. We have a support team that's in place to help you bring this storytelling data into OpenAsset so you can quickly get it into a document that explains your firm's work on each project. So send us a spreadsheet. We have tools on our end where we can quickly work with your team to get get that data, whether it's full stories, codes, names, descriptions, status, dates, cost, all of that data in a spreadsheet. We can get that into the system for you within a week or two. So definitely reach out to us. But I think that as we talk about the single source of truth and having that mindset, it starts with where you are. What data do you have? What data is your team using today? How can you benefit from launching or having that information available to you and launching it into an InDesign template very quickly with a few clicks of a button? So as we go from the project experience down to the employee experience and thinking about that single source of truth, it's incredibly common across the AEC industry for individuals to store resume data or employee experience data in a single master document. The number of conversations that I've had with AEC marketers where that's incredibly frustrating, they're countless, right? Everybody's frustrated that this is the process. And everybody struggles with, how do we transition away from this? What do we do? How do we make our lives easier for managing employee experience? And we have an employee module available in OpenAsset that helps solve for that problem. If you are using a master document where you are editing it to be relevant for every pursuit, you're likely losing time and losing out on up-to-date information because you never know if you have that employee's most recent version. Our employee module allows you to connect employees to their projects that they've worked on while also building out a bio and other relevant information for their resumes to be able to tell the story of that experience. If you are an OpenAsset customer and you have the employee module, or you don't, one thing that I would offer as a pro tip that we've seen be really effective for having or for building out resumes in the long term, if you have for each project experience, you have the opportunity to store a role against what that person did. So let's say Matthew Bridgewater worked on 1201 CRA and he was the architect. You could have a very specific description of the time and effort Matthew put into this project, highlighting all of his experience and the influence and inspiration that drew him to design it the way he did. If not, let's say Matthew is one of many team members that participated on this project, and storing a unique role description against all of those employees would be cumbersome, and it's something that you don't have for historic projects either. That's okay. Our recommendation here is to build a resume description in at the project level. When you talk about sourcing information into InDesign for these, we have the ability when launching an employee resume to take out information from these projects and decide or build logic into it to say, if Andres has a specific role description, included here, and if not, pull from the project. So as a safeguard, you have this backup in place to make sure you are populating unique information to each resume for that purpose. So a couple things there around embracing that single source of truth mindset. With that, I would also say one benefit of using OpenAsset and storing that information here is, let's say this project changed. Let's say that the completion date hadn't come yet, and it was scheduled to be completed in 2018, and yet it got delayed by a couple months or a couple years. You can update that information here, and the next time you go to launch an InDesign document, that data would be updated here. So you have the ability to build certain workflows in to update information in OpenAsset, and then every document going forward is going to have that current information. We also have logic where we can say, if the completion date is August 20th, 2018, but you really just wanted to say 2021, we can do that. That logic is something that we can certainly employ when launching these documents to make your lives easier, and really pulling OpenAsset and InDesign together in your workflows. All right, leveraging metadata to ensure use of approved assets. I will say that in my first 4 years at OpenAsset, working directly with new customers, one of the main things that I heard over and over again was, we need to get our assets organized so people stop using the wrong ones. They're using cell phone pictures, they're using things that they're snapping on site, or they're pulling off of the internet in our pursuits, and we can't have that happen. And then on the other side of that, you hear about the marketer horror stories where there's a lawsuit because somebody used an image that didn't have the correct copyright permissions, right? And for that purpose, we spend a lot of time talking about how do we really make sure that people are elevating the content that has the proper quality or has the correct rank within OpenAsset, as well as using access levels to really guard and gate access to the content that people should not be able to see. So for this, let's jump back into my demo system.
George?
Yeah.
Hey, it's Kevin here. Just a quick question, sir. I had a polling question or two. Did we want to launch those, the early ones, or did you want to wait till later? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I know, totally fine. I think we can go ahead and launch the first ones here. I think first polling question is going to be, how do you currently access this information? So as we're talking about the data that tells the story, the marketing data that we're sourcing into OpenAsset, how do you do that today? Is it in OpenAsset? Is it through Deltek or Uninet, other CRMs? It looks like the numbers are moving quickly. We have it.
Yeah, the numbers are up fast. I'm sorry, sir.
No, it is.
I didn't want to break your stride. Everything was going so great there.
No, that is okay.
I wanted to get this in, and thank you, everybody. You can see the poll on the screen right now, and numbers are jumping up pretty fast. We're about 55%. If you could take a moment to just answer this brief poll, this gives George and SMPS a real good idea what you're working with out there.
And this really kind of reaffirms that point I just made about employee resumes and project descriptions, right? Like storing that in a document. I understand that that's, 46% of you have replied that's what you do, and totally understand, and like that's why we're here. I'll say we are here to help make that process easier for you. If you can get that content out of those documents, it's easier to use it going forward. And one of the things that we talk a lot about with our clients as they come on board, or clients have been with us for years, the workflows you build aren't always for today in the team that you have right now. They're also for the team that you're scaling or growing for. The number of conversations we have with our clients as they're saying, hey, we're expecting to hire 200 people this year. Well, how do you get 200 people to all understand where all this information lives if it's in documents on a network drive or your folder or your personal computer? Really, really challenging. So, OpenAsset, CRMs, syncing the two definitely makes that easier. Relying on a colleague and marketing team, that got 15% of the response here. And it's interesting, I would say, we have one of the things that we like to talk about is how do you begin to leverage OpenAsset so that other teams can be more self-sufficient. And that's something that I'm going to talk about here in a few minutes, different workflows and ways you can do that. But when 15% of you say that you or others are relying on marketing to pull this content together, that's time that maybe you could save by leveraging a tool like OpenAsset, by having a CRM with that data available. And that is part of the growth process, right? When you realize that's a challenge, how do you solve for that? Hopefully OpenAsset is one of the tools that you're considering to help solve that challenge.
And George, real quick,
So
I got 75% answer that. I'm going to stop sharing the results, and just a reminder, we got another polling data question about metadata coming up. Let me know when you want to launch that. Thank you, sir. Please continue.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. So as we begin to talk through, and Kevin, maybe it's fine to go ahead and share poll 2 as well. Because I'm going to talk about here for a minute the actual files and the metadata of those files, and that aligns slightly with accessing files, images, and documents related to project employee experience. So one thing I would say for this next section of the conversation, leveraging metadata, how do we help make sure that we are elevating the top quality content? How do we make sure that we are safeguarding against possible lawsuits or anything else by people sharing content that they shouldn't? Right? OpenAsset, we have tools for that. So some of the best practices and a few tips and tricks I want to recommend here are really tied to use simple and clear language around the ranks in your system. So that way, as we look here, we minimize some of these to reduce what's on the screen. So like, as you look at the rank or marketing preference for these files, right? We have very clear language: hero image, professional photography, general content. General is a little ambiguous, right? Admittedly, I updated that this morning, and now looking at it's pretty ambiguous. But hero image, professional imagery, like those clearly communicate to the end user that this is high quality, paid for content that helps tell the story of this project in a visually compelling way. I think it's really, really important that we talk about ranks in a way that translates to marketing has approved this for use. This is our preference for the way that you order it. Ranking images in OpenAsset definitely helps with that. If you have, if internally you talk about professional imagery being generally acceptable to be shared, then great. Align your rank and marketing preference, labels to that. Let's make sure that as you're getting your system up and running, again, you aren't reinventing the wheel. Let's talk about content based on how you are currently talking about it internally before you have OpenAsset. To go a step further, let's make sure that the team knows that if you're launching documents out of OpenAsset, you are generally going to be pulling, these documents. We build the logic that says these labels, this rank preference is included in the display order for these documents. So we are launching documents out of OpenAsset and including images that you've already indicated are those high quality marketing ones. You can have faith and trust in the fact that when documents are coming out of OpenAsset into InDesign, you have those resources and this data already considered. Access levels, I think it's really important to talk about access levels because they help protect access to assets. You can configure group permissions. So if you have confidential images or images that don't have a copyright, you can control the access of individual users using their group permissions to make sure they do not see those. Or when launching a document, we can make sure that the requirement to include images in these templates is considering access levels as well. So you're only going to populate rank 1 images with green access level. A tip that is not related to InDesign specifically, but I would say that a lot of our clients that build website integrations and other things where they are sourcing imagery out of OpenAsset using our API, include those same pieces of data, rank and access level. They help to make sure that your marketing approved highest quality imagery is what is populating your website or something else. So definitely good there. I see this last question that we launched: how do you currently access the files, images, and documents related to the experience, employee and project experience, a network drive? So roughly 38% of those that responded use OpenAsset. We definitely appreciate that. I saw a couple of clients saying, giving shout outs in the chat as they came on board. So that's great. A network drive, though, that is what we consistently hear, and that's what we consistently move clients from into OpenAsset. So that very much aligns with what we would expect. So great insight there. Thanks for sharing that, Kevin. All right. When we come back to this, all right, so we've talked through now leveraging that metadata to ensure use of approved assets, ranks, make sure they clearly align with how you're talking about content internally, access levels. Let's guard and gate permission where we can to make sure that people aren't sharing content externally that shouldn't be shared externally. Custom templates. I think that custom templates, I've highlighted them here in InDesign a couple of times already. We definitely understand that consistency is a major pain point for marketing teams across every industry. This industry is no different, the AEC space. And one of the ways to help maintain consistency at scale is by leveraging custom templates in OpenAsset. So these custom templates allow you to insert resized imagery in that project information that's sourced directly from OpenAsset into an InDesign document. You can maintain control of your approved and branded content and documents. Make sure everyone's using those templates. You can use OpenAsset through brand refreshes and on. So one of the main objections, and to think about why I'm covering this and including it as a best practice or tip and trick, the number of clients and times that we hear, this isn't going to work for us. Every pursuit is customized or unique based on the bid. We get that, we absolutely do, and we understand the creative effort that goes in to your work and creating these proposals and pursuits. But there's a reason why 60% or more of our clients have custom templates built into their system and are launching hundreds or thousands of these documents every month. It saves them time, right? It saves them time, and it can be leveraged in a way that doesn't compromise your quality. So here's where to start, right? Standardize as much as you can. Yes, every pursuit needs to be different, needs to include relevant projects. But if you start from the standpoint of, hey, I have OpenAsset at my fingertips, I can find all of my corporate projects very quickly. Great. You can now select the best ones, and you can include these in your pursuit without compromising on quality, but also while saving time when you launch these documents out of OpenAsset into InDesign. And you can quickly see here with a few clicks of a button, you have a standardized layout, good project information, high quality rank 1 images, and you can add this into your broader pursuit package. We are not going to, out of the box, be the tool that pulls together all of the information and all of the content for your pursuit package. We understand that. It's something that we are aware of, and we're working on finding ways to improve. But if you are looking at it from a project and employee experience perspective, sourcing that information out of OpenAsset and standardizing it in a way that you can quickly find relevant projects. Yes, this looks standard, but it's relevant. You have relevant content for that pursuit. Make sure that the layout and details match your brand. So as we look at how templates get built into OpenAsset, we ask you for example documents. We want your fonts, your logos, your styles, your spacing. If you provide us with the information as you see here on the screen, this is how we build those documents for you. This is not us taking creative liberty. This is us building what you give us, so that way it can maintain your brand and really attach that brand identity that you as a firm have built with your experience. So, really focusing on custom templates to help scale your team. If we take a step back, sure, it makes sense to automate process of pulling together these project sheets or resumes. But on a day-to-day basis, it saves you time, right? So scaling isn't just about saving time every day. In the status quo, scaling is also about saving time through brand refreshes, through other periods of challenging experiences where you have less people on hand or something else as you bring new people into your team. And that's where scaling and automation like this is even more important. Countless clients have reached out to us and asked about, brand refreshes. We need to update logos. We need to make sure that we have this content here. And we work closely with those clients to make sure that as you go through your brand refresh, when you're preparing for your internal launch, that we have updated logos, updated documents, all that information available in OpenAsset. So on day one, you can say, if you need a new version of X resume, of X project sheet, go launch it out of OpenAsset, right? You can very quickly see that here's an updated logo, right? Here's the new font, and you can enable your team to quickly go get those updated documents without having to point them to a folder structure, without having to stretch the marketing team thin. And same with bringing new team members onto your firm. If they're new marketing team members, maybe they don't know all the details of your styles, of your fonts, of how you like to lay things out. You can still enable them to launch this content out of OpenAsset, and they can then work off of the design and layout and the approved format and how you've done this, within OpenAsset. So, scaling and leveraging these custom templates to do that, I think, is a very important aspect of the value that you can get out of OpenAsset. It really helps to be prepared for things like brand refreshes. They require as much internal enablement and change management as they do external facing fanfare and announcements. So if you're going through a brand refresh project, talk to us. We can definitely help to make sure OpenAsset is up and ready to respond or to provide resources around current logos. Great. I realize we're halfway through time here. I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A at the end. Let's see, eliminating broken links with OpenAsset InDesign plugin. And I guess, Kevin, if we look at the poll questions, let's go ahead and launch poll question 3. So this comes on the tail end of that last bit about custom templates, maintaining consistency. How many project focused documents are you creating a month, right? If you're talking about doing this to scale, what is that volume? How is your team facing these challenges? So looks like, with 35-40% of participation, good bit of you are creating 10 plus documents. So you're pulling together a lot of project focused content on a regular basis. This is great.
I'm gonna let that
6,
one a little bit longer, George. Get like 75%, then I'll show results.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think once we have that, Kevin, even we can go right into the next one, because definitely curious, for those of you launching documents, right? Like, yes, the volume is one thing, but also what is the length of time spent for each of those? So that's the next question, just to give you a little sneak peek there. We're definitely interested in seeing how, seeing what that looks like for you.
That one day, I'm sharing the results real quick, folks. You can see that. Thank you, George. I appreciate it. That's at 61%. Yeah. That gives us a good snapshot of what people are doing.
Absolutely.
Next.
All right. So as we get ready to launch this next question about, like the time it takes to create these project documents, I'll talk a little bit about the benefits and a few tips and tricks on leveraging our InDesign plugin. If you're an OpenAsset customer, hopefully you have the InDesign plugin downloaded and in use. If not, that's okay. And if you're not an InDesign customer, hopefully this is enlightening and exciting, and something that can, maybe spark a little bit of interest for you. So our InDesign plugin, knowing that our end users are marketing team members in the AEC space, right? You are oftentimes creating proposals in InDesign, which is why we're all here today. How do you do that, right? How do we make sure that you're leveraging OpenAsset alongside InDesign, custom templates, talk through those. We also have our InDesign plugin. So let's say you have an already created document for your pursuit, but you aren't sure which images to use, or let's say you want to update to more recent imagery that you've just received. So leveraging our InDesign plugin, you can quickly select these images that are all rank 1, external use. You can see that here. And then you can navigate over to selected and drag and drop these images directly into InDesign. So using my mouse, I can click. Using my arrow keys, I can kind of rotate through the images I've selected to make sure I have the right one next up in the queue. If there's an image already there, I can also hold down the Alt key to make sure that I have, that I'm replacing it. So that can be done. But you can see pretty quickly updated this document with some pretty compelling high quality imagery. I think that, as we talk about these custom image sizes and leveraging the InDesign plugin, it really comes down to a couple things. So InDesign plugin allows you to work with images in a lower quality image size before upgrading them for production or for packaging and print. The reason this is really important is because let's say you have a document with dozens of images or hundreds of images. You can leverage the plugin to make sure that you're working with a small size. And as you go to package, you then upgrade. Makes the document more workable. One thing I would definitely say to those that have the InDesign plugin installed is navigate here to the settings, click on images, and make sure you have always download full resolution images checked off. What this does is it makes sure that you're downloading those images in the background, the full version, to make packaging faster and easier. They'll be downloading in the background. So when you click that package button, you'll be prompted, hey, do you want to upgrade these? Yes, the download is already done. It just goes through and updates the image sizes. It's a much faster experience, and also it's less lag on your InDesign. Any InDesign user that has the OpenAsset plugin, whether or not they regularly access OpenAsset or not, they are able to log in, or they're able to have the plugin, which then populates these images in the document. So I think it's definitely important to make sure that as you're going through these documents and you're saying, okay, great, Media City UK, let me jump back in here. I can find the project in OpenAsset, grab these top quality files. I want rank 1 and external use. Great, I have these. Let me select these images. I can quickly drag and drop this selection for Media City UK into this document to, again, tell the story we're looking to tell with these high quality images. Great, and it looks like for that last poll that we launched, pretty even across these time increments. So less than 1 hour per document, all the way up to 4+. So pretty even spread there, with a little bit higher concentration in the 4+ hours per project document. insightful information. Definitely, tying that back to what we're doing here. OpenAsset, InDesign together enable you to quickly create these documents at scale with a few clicks of a button. So tying that back to the content that we're covering today. As we move into this last kind of piece of information here, this last key theme, storing InDesign files to increase firm-wide accessibility. So we understand it's likely that not every employee across your firm has access to InDesign. Understandable, and it's why it's important to us to help you make that content more accessible. We had a couple of clients 3 or 4 years ago saying, hey, we're creating this content. We want to make sure that other people can access it. What's the easiest way to do that? But we also want others to be able to find it and collaborate with it. So we built the functionality to enable clients to store packaged InDesign files in OpenAsset using our plugin. So our plugin enables you to quickly take your documents. You can click OpenAsset, package for OpenAsset. And what this does is it basically zips up all the information, all the resources for this document, puts it into a zip file that can be uploaded into OpenAsset. Once in OpenAsset, file format, InDesign. Once in OpenAsset, you can view all the pages of this document, or you can download it as a PDF. So when doing that, you're increasing the accessibility to this content across your team. I don't need an InDesign document or an InDesign license to find this content here in OpenAsset and download it into a PDF. I don't need an InDesign license to be able to view it here in OpenAsset. So it's definitely important to us to make sure that our clients are aware of this and leveraging this feature. It tells or it increases their accessibility to the content that they're creating. And again, it reduces that strain on marketing that we talked about a few minutes ago, where you're being relied on to kind of solve and deliver content to individuals that could possibly be more self-sufficient. Another workflow that I want to cover, that's a step removed from InDesign, but still I think something that is interesting and relevant when we're talking about putting together pursuits. And if you've gone through that process of completing your InDesign document, you have a PDF version of it. Let's say in OpenAsset, you have a host of PDFs. Maybe we have what we can do leveraging these PDFs is we can put together a pursuit package. We have a number of clients that have different cover pages available and stored as a PDF in OpenAsset. They have a back cover as well, right? This is a PDF stored in OpenAsset. Maybe they have a few pieces of information around their firm, their approach, their vision. How do we help our clients tell that story? As you bring that content into OpenAsset as individual PDFs, you can quickly find it by searching for things like file format PDF. Let's say you want to look for proposal pages as a keyword. I have all of these, right? And so leveraging this information and these assets in the system, I can quickly come back and again, find all of my PDFs. In this case, I'm going to select this back cover, our client's approach. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna select all of these except for 1201 CRA. Maybe that's not relevant. Once I've done that, I can navigate to my selected tab and click reorder selection. So we know this is the cover. We know this is the back cover. And in here, we want to talk about our vision, our project first approach. We want to have a visual included in the pursuit. that has some of our user interface, our clients, and then the specific projects that are relevant to this pursuit. And I understand, again, that as you work on InDesign documents, there's a lot that goes into these. This is not going to meet every pursuit need that you have, but it's definitely can be considered a starting point. So if you click done, you can then select all of these files. Oops. I lost my cover page. Back here. Right. So all of these are my selection. Click done. I can now click combine PDF, and you'll see generate document. I now have a PDF version of this quick put together pursuit package that includes PDF versions of the project sheet that I store back in OpenAsset, and it runs all the way from the cover page, our mission, value, all of that. I'm very cognizant that we've gone 45 minutes, and this is the last bit of the key theme tips and tricks that I wanted to cover. We have 2 quick product roadmap updates that I think are relevant before we jump into the Q&A. First thing that I want to cover is we've talked a lot about InDesign. We talk about InDesign because it's an important part of your workflow, right? Dragging and dropping content into InDesign. It is one of the tools that you use to help tell your firm's story. We are in the process of building an expanded drag and drop desktop app that will enable you to drag and drop 2 more tools more effortlessly and really integrate OpenAsset further into your workflows. Canva, Gmail, Outlook, folder structures, Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, the Affinity suite. We are building an expanded app that helps make sure that you can get your content out of OpenAsset into other collateral creation tools, because we realize that InDesign is not the only thing that you're using. Another quick mention here, we've demoed this on a couple of different calls, I think, and one thing that we are preparing to launch is generative AI within OpenAsset. We're going to have collateral to support the launch of this that answers a lot of the common questions we've heard, but we have built a tool into OpenAsset that allows you to take a project description or to source, to review all the information associated with the project and write a description. So if you have sector, sustainability awards, all of that information attached, costs, dates, employees, OpenAsset will scan that information and write a description for you within the product. The data does not leave OpenAsset. We have a we have the ability to keep all of that contained within our product and our servers. So this is GDPR compliant and all of that. But we can write personalized bios for employees, quick project descriptions. We can create file keywords based on the content of the images, and also come up with a list of recommended project keywords based on the description as well. So a number of generative AI features coming, and those are intended to help you tell your story. How do you, make sure that you're getting spruced up descriptions? This isn't going to replace you. It's going to give you a starting point to then go and curate that information, and tweak it to be story to better tell the story for your experience. So I know we have a lot of questions here. I'm going to stop talking, and Kevin, maybe we can start touching on some of these Q&A.
And George, just real quick, I'm sorry to say we're going so fast there. We had 2 more polling questions about the employee documents. Do you want to skip those and move on to questions, or what do you prefer, sir?
Let's move on to questions.
Sounds good.
And we'll go from there.
Yep. Okay. And so I'm just going to start at the top here. Some of these came in from the early part of the presentation. Question 1, can you create InDesign templates to pull project sheet information into, or does it always go into a standard format?
Yeah, so those formats are based on what you provide us. You can provide us with that InDesign document, and we're going to match the data that populates it with what you send us. So again, we would request that you say, put project description field here. sector keywords here, service keywords here. All of this information is based on the layouts that you provide.
All right, next question. Is the InDesign interface included with the OpenAsset licenses, or is it an additional cost?
It's included with the OpenAsset licenses. We have the InDesign plugin is free to all of our clients. In the onboarding process, templates are included. After you complete onboarding, there can be a cost associated with building custom templates into the system. It would be a service charge, but we would review that with you and our renewals team to make sure that we're taking all the necessary considerations and working with you to get the value out of OpenAsset you expect.
Great. Can you add additional custom pieces of information, such as contract start date to the project page?
Absolutely. So all of the information on in OpenAsset on the project record is customizable and curated by your team. Descriptions, costs, dates, all of that can be built out based on whatever data you have and you would like to store.
Yeah, double question here. Can OpenAsset accommodate multiple descriptions per project or multiple bios per employee? If so, how does the document generator handle those descriptions?
You can, yes, you can store multiple descriptions on projects and employees. We would look to you to help understand the logic you look to include. So if you, let's say, don't have a resume or don't have a primary description and instead have the resume, we would, we could pull that. You could also have different templates that populate different descriptions. So let's say you wanted to have, even for the employee experience side, we have clients that store a French bio versus a German or English bio, and they have different resumes that pull the different information based on those preferences.
And then part two of the question, are clients able to create their own InDesign templates, or does that still need to be hard-coded by the OpenAsset team?
So as of right now, those are still built in by the OpenAsset team. We do not have a tool for you to build your own today, though it is something that we are looking at on our product roadmap.
Great. Might have asked this. Has OpenAsset worked with Airtable database integration?
We do not have an integration today with Airtable. For clients that use Airtable, we've worked with them to pull exports. And I think when we say that, we often hear, well, our data changes. My real question back is how often is that data changing and for what % of the data stored there, right? If you're changing 10% of the data points in your Airtable system or your spreadsheet or whatever it is, let's get the 90% that doesn't change, the projects that are done and completed and you're not changing the information for those, the employees that, how often is their education changing? Hopefully they continue with their education. It's great, but it's likely that that information does not change on a regular basis. So we could work with you to schedule regular updates of that information if and when it does get updated. But something like Airtable, our request would be, you can use our API to build an integration. Our partnerships team can engage with Airtable, as a possible partnership opportunity in the future. But right now we would say, let's start with the data you have and capture as much of the static data as possible with an import.
Does OpenAsset sync with Ajera? Forget my pronunciation, A-J-E-R-A, Ajera?
Yep. Yeah, so if you have the CRM module within Ajera, the answer is yes. Ajera, because of its nature as a product that was acquired by Deltek, it leveraged a different API originally. And so only the CRM model or module within Deltek can connect with OpenAsset.
All right. Can you store your company's branded InDesign templates in OpenAsset so that it would automatically fill out in your own template? I read that back.
Company's branded InDesign templates in.
I'll read that again.
Yes, I think that, reading that, I think that the answer there is yes. It's similar to what we've been talking about here and is being able to, we would build those templates into the system for you using your branding, all of your design, we would build them in for you to be able to export them out.
Can you, oh, sorry, done. Is there a way to connect OpenAsset to Cosential or Vista to have projects automatically update in real time?
Yes, so we do have a integration with Cosential or Uninet CRM by Cosential. The integration enables you to select the projects that you wish to sync into OpenAsset. And as those changes are made, OpenAsset syncs every 3 hours. So that is not a real-time integration for syncing, but it does sync within 3 hours. So hopefully that helps. If not, reach out to us and we can talk about various workarounds or ways to request a one-off sync that's a little bit sooner.
Fantastic. Can we customize the templates for project stories and resumes so they have the layout that matches our firm's preference?
Yes, yep, covered that one. We would use your the resources you provide us.
Scrolling down. Does OpenAsset sync with Uninet? I think you answered that.
Yeah. And I'll
moving on. If you integrate OpenAsset with Deltek and update data in one, will it automatically update in the other program?
So our integration with Deltek is one way. We sync from Deltek into OpenAsset only, not the other way around. So changes would have to be made in Deltek for the data that maps into OpenAsset.
Can OpenAsset sync with Loopio?
I have not heard of Loopio, but to answer, right now we do not automatically, or we don't have an out-of-the-box integration with Loopio. We'll take that into our product team and see how that works. But we can definitely look into, what type of information is stored there and offer some recommendations if we need to.
I think answered, but can you create multiple templates to choose from for project case studies, different images, sizes, etc.?
Absolutely. Each of these documents, can be built as you wish, but also to include different image sizes. And let's say this isn't the correct image size, using our plugin, you can always drag and drop a different image into this document, into this image frame to better fit what you're looking for, and then upgrade it using the OpenAsset InDesign plugin to the original or highest quality image size.
If we only have the free tier of the employee module, would we need to upgrade in order to create resumes from OpenAsset and link employees to projects?
So on the free tier, you can link employees to projects, but you do not have access to the custom employee resume template. So yes, in order to have the custom templates that match your branding and all of that, you would need to upgrade to a paid version.
All right. Can we develop our own templates from OpenAsset to InDesign, or does OpenAsset have to do that? I think.
Yep, and so you would develop those and give them to us, and then we would code them into the system for you.
All right. Can the templates be created for SF330s?
Yes, we have a number of clients that are launching documents into launching SF330 documents out of OpenAsset. Let's see if I have. Here's a SF330 blue version with image. Let's see if this is what I want to do, or if I'm going to get an error. Good, it worked. Not a common demo or function that I demo here, but yes, you can populate this SF330 document out of OpenAsset using our InDesign connection.
Once OpenAsset makes a template for a brand, can a populated template with a specific project be customized in InDesign by the individual?
Yes. Once this document is in InDesign, it is just like any other InDesign document, and it can be edited and updated as your team sees fit. Yes.
When will OpenAsset's D&D be compatible with Revit and Bluebeam?
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that one. I would say we We definitely, if you'd like to discuss, we can talk about workflows and use cases there. If you're a customer, reach out to our customer success team, your customer success manager. If not, then reach out to our sales team, and we can definitely talk through that a little bit more with you.
Interesting one here. Hi, my small company seller doers prepare brief RFP responses in Microsoft Word. Does OpenAsset export to Word docs templates? Also, just wondering in general if it's possible. I know the focus is on InDesign.
Absolutely. We have a number of clients that use Word because oftentimes seller doers are not using InDesign. Totally understand that. And so, yes, we have a number of clients that are leveraging Word and PowerPoint as options for exporting as well. And those include everything from SF330 documents to branded documents. I will say that if you use Word, you already probably are aware of the challenges of populating anything in Word documents. You drop an image box, everything shifts down a page. Because of that, we have slightly different limitations than we do in InDesign. But yes, we can launch into Word.
And George, I hate to say it, I've gone as fast as I can through these questions. It's 1 o'clock. We can try to do a few more. I don't want to push people's time too much further, or what do you think, sir?
Well, yeah, I mean, we have, there's a pile of questions, I will say, which is great. But also, yeah, there's a pile of questions. Let me scroll through and see if there's any that really jump out and are a little bit different.
I'll grab all these. And
someone asked about changing out the picture that was in the template. Yes, using our InDesign plugin. If the document launches out of OpenAsset and you want to change that, you can certainly do it. If you're using our plugin today, you would hold down Alt as you go to click and drop the new image in. There was a question about, did we talk about links breaking? I think we did, but I covered it maybe in a slightly roundabout way. Using our InDesign plugin, as long as other users have the InDesign plugin installed, whether or not they're logged into OpenAsset or not, those images will not have broken links because they are sourced from the cloud and not from a folder structure. So our plugin ensures that that the content is being pulled from your OpenAsset system and not living on a network folder that you have to have access to in order for the image link to be to persist. So hopefully that answers if that anonymous question asker is still on. If not, hopefully for everyone else that is still on, that's a helpful tidbit. Be able to bulk upgrade images if you start off with lower quality images. So we would recommend, of course, bringing in the highest quality images because you can create smaller image sizes. We could do a bulk import to upgrade those images. Oh, maybe you're asking in the document. So in InDesign. So this image here is going to be the medium image size. You can, at the end of the process here, if I go to package this document, if I say package, I'm going to be prompted to upgrade to full resolution at the time of packaging. So when you package this file, you will upgrade all of those images at the same time.
I'll tell you what, that's definitely getting down to our time.
Yeah.
So, George, if I can I ask you just one final thought or comment to wrap this up? Because this was a lot of information coming at folks really fast. Thank you, by the way. This was brilliant. But one final thought, sir. Any final closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, one of the things that OpenAsset, that we being AEC focused on is making sure that AEC marketers have the tools to be more efficient, to maintain consistency, and to scale, right? Like that's the benefit of all these workflows we talked through today. I know I covered a lot from using OpenAsset to source and store storytelling information, to creating custom templates and maintaining the consistent layouts. our end goal and the reason why we stay focused on the AEC space is because we understand those outcomes that you're trying to achieve and how having these tools make your lives easier. So efficiency being the goal here. I think that would be my final thought, and hopefully it's been a good session for everybody. Yeah, and thanks for having me, Kevin. Very much appreciate it.
Of course, of course. Well, with that, friends, I'm going to say on behalf of SMPS, thank you to our presenter, George Bains, and to all of today's participants. This program is ended. You may now disconnect. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.